Say hi.
Hi.
I'm Amber Rodriguez, and you're watching the Recount Podcast.
When in it, an unbelievable weight that you might hate, but you can't even
During high pass, we find that drag ball at.
Now entering the ring, married to
Welcome everybody to another great edition of the 3 Count Podcast presents Now Entering the Ring. I'm your host, Clifford Red Dog Miller, and I'm the one who leads you on these expeditions. But we know it's not about me. It's always about Now Entering the Ring. And this person can be found at Invictus, Pizza Party, Camp Leapfrog, Uncanny, AEW, Dark, CZW, Capital Wrestling, House of Glory, and House of Horrors. He's been on Evolve and PPW. This is the man who just does all great things with a switch in his hand. Give it up for the man, Big Game, Leroy.
Wow, an introduction like that, I don't know how to top that. Wow, like that resume, like I think about my resume and I'm like, oh, it's all right, it's okay. Then I heard it and I was like, dang, that sounds like a lot. Yikes.
And it's awesome because it's like within the last year. We're not even talking about like all the stuff previously. So
Yeah, no, like I mean, all the no name. I think the phrase is Shindies and Jersey and in the Bronx that I wrestled in as well. The ones that they literally paid me. I wish they gave me a hot dog. All I got was the handshake.
oh yeah, no kidding.
Yeah.
I've seen that. I've been to places where people were just like, hey yo, like thanks for coming in. And I'm like, sweet.
Yeah, they're just like, did you have fun? And I'm just like, yeah, I wrestle. I love this. And they're like, good. And I'm like, so, and they're like, yeah, you had fun, right? And I'm like, oh, that's what I got from this. I had fun. Cool.
Dang, the exposure.
Yes. Oh, my favorite thing. And then I look at their Twitter page with 5 followers. And I'm like, wow, I really got exposed here, huh?
Yeah.
Exposed for being an idiot.
Those 5 fans in the front are probably all 5, or that, or you just created 5 accounts and just followed yourself.
Right, I my follow count, the exposure, like I'm sure William Regal was one of those people watching in the crowd.
Yeah, he was just like, oh, that one right there, he might be the one I get.
Yeah, Hunter, we need to bring in this next one, this Switch kid. Let's bring him down to Orlando. Let's see what he's got.
Find out. It should be a good chum. Hey, so first things first, man. I just want to say thank you for coming on our podcast. That's definitely the one thing.
No problem. It's funny because like I literally like I meant this when I said it, like at Invictus. Like my Instagram is crazy because like the people I talk to regularly, like I have them just it's good. Like it's just I talk to them and I see them. And then like if I'm like I feel like my messages get filtered in such a weird way and I don't see like not a bunch of other messages. So I like was looking and then I like found your page, you followed me and stuff like that. And I was like, wait a minute. Then I followed back and I was like, wait a minute. Now I see all these messages. What the heck? And I was just like, whoa, I feel like a jerk. I didn't even see these. So now I was like, yeah, let's do it. Especially because I feel like I'd seen you before and I feel like we had met before Invictus. So I was like, oh man, this guy seems cool. Yeah, sure, I'll do his podcast. And I think it was one of those things where I was like, I feel like you'd brought it up to me before. And I was just like, oh man, yeah, I should do that guy's podcast. And I was like, oh, I guess he didn't really want me to do it. I guess it's just like, whatever. Busy, probably went with other people. And then I was like, wait a minute. Oh shoot, he hit me up and I just didn't see it.
You wouldn't believe, like, and I'm not gonna throw anybody under the bus when I say this, but like you wouldn't believe like how many times like I get told like, dude, like I didn't realize like you had sent me a message. I'm like, it's fine, bro. Like, I get it. Cause like there's lots hey, look, the camera going out. Like we thought would happen.
Oh, the 3 count.
Yeah. So, but it's like that all the time though. I get a lot of messages that bad people are just like, wow, man, like I totally just missed your message. I'm like, it's fine, don't worry. I know like you're busy, you have tons of people like hit you up all the time. Like, trust me, when I go try to talk to females about like coming on the show, I 100% understand. Like, if you don't read my message, I get it. Cause like, you're in this world and people are like, hey, yo, you want to be on my podcast? And I'm like, no. I get it. I 100% understand.
No. And like I hate to be that person because I always tell myself, especially because I grew up a nerdy kid in high school. So I was kind of just like, yeah, when I become a wrestler and people know me and stuff, I'm going to make sure I respond to all the messages. And like, I still try to keep true to that. I still do my best. I mean, I think sometimes I get overwhelmed, like especially usually after like I do a show or something. Like there's just too many messages and I can't get to all of them at a decent time. And then sometimes, like sometimes they're just weirdos. Sometimes they're just like, okay, I'm just not gonna acknowledge that. I'm just gonna kind of leave that over there because that's just a little too much, even for me. And we all have our limits as humans. I'm just like, okay, yeah.
Oh, no, I definitely like. Yeah, I was thinking about that too, and I see that happen a lot. So I always just try to make sure, just like if I catch you at a show, like I'll talk to you there, and then like I'll send you a message, or I'll send you a message, and then I'll send you like something else to like let people know, like, hey, yo, like it's not one of those things. So like I've had people like tell me like I want to see like a list of everybody you've like interviewed, and if there's anybody there that's like worth a damn, quote unquote, them, and I'm like. I don't go get bums if that's what you're saying.
Yeah, I think it's like people want to feel valued. Like I think earlier on in my career I didn't really do a lot of podcasts, but it wasn't because of the reason of like, oh, I'm too big for some podcasts or whatever. I just felt like I didn't really have much to tell people at the time. Like I was just kind of like, I don't really have much to say. Like I love wrestling and I train and I try to get better and it's very like typical. It's nothing really I don't want to say nothing special because it's my journey or whatever, but it's like there's nothing different about it than most guys, first 2-3 years in. And I think now, I mean, you kind of named a lot of stuff, but like now I have like a good amount of stuff to talk about, and I have a good amount of stories and experiences in wrestling, even in just like the last year alone, like pandemic wrestling. What the heck is that, man? It's crazy. It's still weird to like wrestle in a pandemic, like so nuts.
Yeah, that's funny for me because like I started my journey January of last year, and
Mm,
like things were going well, and then like March happened, and like that was it. Everything was dead stopped all the way till May, and then once May came, like then the training facility got opened back up, and I was like, all right, bet.
yeah.
So now I can be training, and like so from like it was like the end of May till like right before I got injured in late August. Like
Hmm.
things were going smooth. And then like after my injury, I came back, and from then on, like I've just been running crazy. So like, yeah, I was like, I need to get up to Invictus because I knew Alex. So I was like, let me go up to Invictus, and I was like, I
Yeah,
just
yeah.
want to go set up the ring and just like kind of get my face like seen around. And like that's the whole reason that like myself and Chaz actually went up there because we were like, hey, let's just go pop up, let's go help set up the ring, set up tables, whatever they need us to do, and then just hang out. And we brought our gear with us just in case, because you never know.
As always, as
Rule
always,
number
as
one.
always. Yeah, yeah. I think that's like rule number one or one B, 1A or 1B. It's up there. It's up there. You always bring your gear.
Yep. And so that's what we did. We showed up and we just like helped set up, and then we just enjoyed the show, tore down, left. That was it.
Yeah, no, no. I peeped. I. It's funny. So that Invictus show, was that the first time we met? Because I feel like I had seen you somewhere before then.
I have one of those faces that people are always like, I think I've seen you before. And unless you like wrestle in Maryland with like ACW, like you probably wouldn't have seen me.
Yeah, you're probably ACW. Yeah, no. I went to Maryland once. That's my cat's tail. I went to Maryland once. I don't know if I'm spoiling anything, but when the last CZW thing that happened was actually taped there.
Mm.
So that was my only time wrestling in Maryland, and I kind of was excited. Well, let me phrase this correctly. I was excited because I thought that would be the start of something, not the end of something, kind of thing. So I was kind of just like, oh yeah, Maryland, always wanted to wrestle here. So cool. Never wrestled here before. Now it's going to be a regular thing. And then everything shut down. And like, I don't, we don't know what the future of, these companies are, but I was just like, oh man, like I really wish like that could have been a consistent thing because you never know. Like CZW is kind of rebranding itself,
Right,
rebuilding
right.
itself under some like young guys, I guess myself included, if I can, say so myself. And I felt really good and confident about like the direction of that company. And then, everything shut down. And then, obviously a lot of people spoke out about it in a certain way and stuff like that. And, rightfully so, obviously some practices and stuff were just not okay at all. And, I think we realized that about a lot of places. But, that also was kind of like inspiring to me in a weird way. Like I was kind of just like, wow, like wrestling sucks. Oh, wait, no. It's on us to kind of make sure that it doesn't suck, in a
Right.
way. Like it's like on us to kind of try to be that positivity because like it's very easy to feel hopeless. Like I was that guy in the locker room that would hear about all this craziness and go, well, it's not really my business or my place to say anything because I'm this like 2 year in kid who, isn't even like on wrestling on this, or I'm just doing the battle royal, or I'm just doing this random thing. And like, it's not my place to speak up about these issues because I don't have any foot or stock in these matters. I don't have a Twitter following in the 0.1000 Ks or whatever, at the time at least or whatever. I mean, now I guess I'm at like a nice 2000 on Twitter, but like even now I still like I relish the platform I have because I realize like now I have a responsibility. I feel like, I think a lot of wrestlers might not feel that way, and that's okay. It's a personal thing. Some people don't really give a, they don't care about social media. They're just like, oh, whatever. I'm just gonna post if I'm drunk. I'm gonna post if I'm angry. I'm gonna post if I'm sad. I'm gonna post if I'm happy, and that's cool. Like if you like, sometimes it's really entertaining. Sometimes it's really fun. Sometimes it's cool to get a glimpse into someone outside of the wrestler. But sometimes it's also just like, I don't know. Like you could be like making people aware of real issues. You could be making people aware of stuff that probably doesn't need to be a thing anymore in wrestling, like we've evolved from, or things that like really need highlighting, and like I kind of realized that in the pandemic as I was like making content or trying to be funny. Like I used to make jokes on Twitter that all I was eating was Pop-Tarts, and then post a picture of me and abs and be like, hey, I just ate Pop-Tarts all day and still I have abs. Want to see me try to lose them tomorrow? And like then I started to realize like, oh, like social justice stuff was going on, stuff in wrestling was happening, and I was like, oh, let me speak out about these things because I think that's a little bit more important than me what flavor Pop-Tart I'm eating, or if I still have abs after eat like 3 of them or something.
Yeah, actually, so it's funny because like I'm actually genuinely like this is kind of fly. I love this, but I'm curious because like this is a question, and I'm sure you probably get this question a lot. But like being a black man in the wrestling industry, like what does that mean to you?
Mm. So when I was a kid, like I grew up in Brooklyn, New York, Bed-Stuy to be exact, and that's like a neighborhood that's predominantly, black, Hispanic. It was a neighborhood that was a little on the rougher side, if you can imagine. It was called Do or Die Bed-Stuy, all the movies and all that stuff. So, growing up in that neighborhood, like you kind of were either into hip hop and rap, you were into ball, or you were into drugs in the streets. So, me being a kid that was into wrestling wasn't always the coolest thing, and I always had a lot of people who were like, "Oh, that's what white kids are into. What's wrong with you? You trying to be white or something?" And I was like, "Oh, no, I just really like wrestling and Jeff Hardy and RVD and these people." And it was already kind of like a weird thing to a lot of people.
Right.
And as I got older, I got a little bit more conscious of it. Like, hey, like that's really weird that this wrestling thing isn't for me in some way, I guess. I guess because like you would watch it and you wouldn't see a lot of too many black wrestlers. Like I remember as a kid, it was like Booker T, The Rock, obviously. And when I was a kid, those were the people, like that was the only people I saw who kind of somewhat resembled me, and then later a little bit, like Rey Mysterio and Eddie Guerrero, like other Hispanic people of color kind of rising to prominence. And I was kind of like, oh, okay, that maybe there is an avenue for a guy like me. Cause I didn't always believe I could be a wrestler. I didn't always think that, part of it was like I was a scrawny kid and I was super short and I was kind of just like, yeah, it's probably not going to happen for me. And then part of it also was like, I don't really, these guys on TV don't look like me. They don't talk like me. They don't carry themselves like me. So maybe that's a sign. But things change. And like as a while, after a while, you kind of like you grow up, you grow older, and you're kind of like, well, I don't think I care anymore. If like I need to go up there and do that for me and for people like me, especially because like you start to see other wrestlers rise to prominence and stuff like that. Like I love the New Day. I think the way they've been able to do it has been really, really awesome. They do it through positivity and just being entertaining nonstop. And like I think there's something really cool about that. And they never sacrifice their beliefs. Like I saw them on WWE programming on Fox, literally kneel and put their fists up in protest, on a Fox program. And that isn't lost on me. And I think that there's something incredibly powerful about that. And I think that there's something really cool about that. And, to me, I'm like, wow, like that's at the highest levels. So what can I do at this level? What can I do now? Because during quarantine, the first thing I started thinking was like, how do I like bridge this gap? Like of like, hey, I am this video game guy, but I'm also black, proud of it. And like, I have this experience both in wrestling and also just outside of wrestling of being this black man. I have been in locker rooms where they were kind of just like, hey, well, we already got these two black guys in the card. So, I mean, I guess maybe we could put you in the battle royal, or, yeah, well, we got enough people of color, or we got enough of this, and you feel like you're just filling out a quota. And, it could be really disparaging. It can be really heartbreaking because you're kind of just like, well, now, on top of the fact that you're racist, clearly, I have to compete with my people to get on the show, all because of our race, not because of like in wrestling, you got to compete with people just off of being talented or whatever. That's fine. But it's like, I got to compete against my brothers for 3 spots on a show when for, a white person, maybe they probably wouldn't have to do that or something like that. And it's not just about being a black person like that. A lot of other races of color and women as well feel that same burden of like, wow, I got to compete against people just like me for this one spot because that's all we get. And it happens a lot more in independent wrestling, depending on the company. And I think that's something cool that's come out of the pandemic wrestling era has been the inclusiveness, because people are now aware of it and they have to be aware of it because us, the wrestlers, are speaking up more. Like I can go on Twitter and say like, hey, like it's not cool if this, and that is happening and people will pay attention because it's not wrong. And I don't have to worry about getting blackballed or anything like that because I feel like there's a lot more protection for us as wrestlers. Obviously, I'm not going to go nuts and start spewing about this or that or that or this because I understand that progress takes time. This stuff takes time, and I'm not saying that I need all black shows all the time. That's not even necessarily what I want. I honestly I love the idea of for the culture shows and this and that, and I think they're really, really, really cool. But I just want a show that has diversity, and it doesn't even have to say it's diverse. It just is. That's just the status quo. That's not the exception. That's just always it. Yeah, it's just the norm. I look at for example, we listed Pizza Party as one of the companies I wrestle for that and they promote themselves as, and I love Pizza Party. So let me also say that. Shout out to Pizza Party. Love them. They're one of my no, actually they are my favorite place to wrestle. And I'm sorry, everybody else. It's just I have so much fun there. I love being the Invictus social media champion, but at Pizza Party I have so much fun and I feel creatively so listened to in such a way, and it's just so fun. And one of the things I really love about Pizza Party is that they're probably one of the more inclusive companies I wrestle for, and they don't even promote it. They just are, and I love that. They have women's and intergender matches, and they don't promote it as intergender. It's just matches. They have LGBTQ wrestlers. They have Black wrestlers, they have Hispanic wrestlers, they have wrestlers of all type and all backgrounds, of all legitimate whatever backgrounds. They have shooter weights, they have catch wrestlers, they have everybody. And I think that's so cool. And that's just the norm for them. They don't promote it because they're like, diversity, this is just how we are. That's not a catchphrase. That's not a poster tagline. It's not a hashtag. That's just what we're trying. That's just what we are, And I think that's really, really cool. Not to say that if you promote that you're all about that, it's bad. Obviously, if you promote that so people know that is what should be the norm. That is what we're working towards. But it's so cool to me that they just do it and they just are about it, And I think I can't put them over enough about that. I can't give them enough credit for that because they just did that, And I love that. It's beautiful.
No, that's awesome though, and you're right. You would think that it would be the norm, it shouldn't be oh yeah, this company it's exceptional. It doesn't have to say anything, but you would think that across the board things would just work together and everybody would want to be a part of something bigger. But you're right. The pandemic definitely turned heads and was hey I was just talking about this actually the other day. It was weird how the first weekend that we're able to go out and enjoy outside from the lockdown, we have obviously the whole George Floyd thing happen, and we're now you have to face that because that's the first incident that we have that comes out of that, and everybody was yep, we're a racist country, we gotta figure this out. And
Yeah.
And it's funny because you said it progress takes time, but the other part about progress is that progress is fragile, and people as soon as something happens, anybody's looking for a reason just to stop something, and so it takes time, but it's fragile, and you got to nurture it, and you got to make sure people understand hey, this is norm. This was never supposed to be one or the other. So I definitely agree with you on that point. Um, I always bring up all these fun questions, but I'm genuinely like interested in this whole entire conversation now. But I really want to know, like, how did you get into wrestling? Because I know you're a gamer, right? And like you had mentioned that it wasn't normal for you to be in wrestling, but I'm just curious, like, what drew your eye to the sport?
Uh it's always hard. I always say the first thing I remember, my first memory in wrestling was The Rock cutting a promo and it just making me laugh. Like as a kid, I think it was like probably 3 or 4, and I just remember The Rock making me laugh. I don't remember what he said. I don't remember what he did. I just remember finding whatever he was doing super entertaining. And I think that that's kind of stuck with me with my idea of wrestling. As I got older, my cousins and uncles and all my friends are super into wrestling, and I was too. I thought it was awesome. I grew up on SmackDown, UPN. Shout out to local syndicated cable because I couldn't afford cable. But like I grew up on that, like I loved guys like Rey Mysterio, Eddie Guerrero. I didn't even know Shawn Michaels and Triple H were like wrestling until besides like the pay-per-views, because I didn't even know Raw was a thing for the most part. I only knew SmackDown.
Right.
Obviously later a little bit Kurt Angle, Brock Lesnar. Like I just love that era of SmackDown so much. And after a while, I was just like, man, this is so cool. You start play wrestling with your family, you start, playing all the video games and creating all the characters, and you're just like, creating yourself in SmackDown versus Raws, doing the career modes. And, I'm just like, yeah, this is awesome. Like, it would be awesome to be a wrestler. You get to travel the world, you get to be rich and be on TV and be cool, because when you're a gamer, being cool is super important.
Super
And,
important.
yeah. So, I don't know. It was weird because, like, I think it was like around the time of middle school, high school. I was still super into wrestling. And I think at that age, you're supposed to, no one told me this. I didn't realize this. You probably also didn't realize this. You're supposed to grow out of wrestling, apparently. Like I don't know. I didn't learn that lesson or something because I just didn't. And as I got to learn the backgrounds and the stories in the locker room and stuff like that, and more of what actually goes into wrestling, I got more enamored by it. It didn't, some people get put off by it. They're like, oh, this is what really goes on. This is what wrestling really works. It's a performance in this way or that way. And I was like, no, like this sounds awesome. Like this sounds even cooler. And I kind of want to be a part of it, even though I'm not athletic at all. And even though I'm not probably a prototypical wrestler person or whatever. And then I think around the age of like 14, 15, I started thinking to myself, but wouldn't it be really cool to at least try? And I thought to myself, and as I got a little bit older, when I was like 16, 17, I was kind of just like, well, I owe it to myself to at least like kind of try. I'll go to college, I'll do all the stuff, but let me find a wrestling school. Right after I graduate high school, I'm gonna figure out however I'm gonna make some a little bit of money to get me through a few months at least. And if I suck at it and I hate it and it hurts and all that stuff, which I knew it was gonna, do all that stuff, I was like, then I'll drop it. I'll get a real job. I'll focus on a real career, and that'll be that. But at least I could tell myself I love wrestling so much, and I tried it, and I gave it a try, and I don't have to live my life with any regrets. And at 17 years old, literally a month after I graduated high school, I found a wrestling school, House of Glory, and I sucked and it hurt really, really bad. But I loved it. I really, really loved it. Like I was in a ring and just being in the ring and just touching the ropes, like that stuff just it made me so happy and I wanted more. Like even if I wasn't good at it, even if I didn't necessarily have the physical I don't know what the word is, the physical potential, the physical knack for it. I was like, this is what I want to do. And I think this is kind of what I'm maybe meant to do. And then as you improve and as you get better and as you feel more confident, like partly because I started wrestling at 17, I started training at 17. Like it's kind of like a big point of life development. I realized, like in hindsight, I'm kind of like, it's kind of crazy that I started that at 17. Like it's kind of nuts because like some people don't even know what like school they want to go to at 17.
Right.
And I look back and I'm like, wow, like it kind of shaped my whole life because, wrestling was a very humbling sport. Like it taught me a lot about like how to, be humble and like how to be patient with yourself, being meticulous about like, being like, for example, like in wrestling, your footwork is everything early on, your footwork is everything early on. And, I spent hours at home, not even in training, at home, just practicing how to walk right or how to lock up properly, just pantomiming and wrestling the air and paying attention to my shadow to make sure my feet were pointed right or something like that. And I it's just crazy to me because like that was the stuff that stuff sticks with you, you know, for the rest of your life because you're like, wow, I devoted myself in such a way to wrestling, to anything. Some people, you know, wake up in the morning and they don't have anything to devote themselves in that way. And that's like really, really cool that I got that at 17, you know?
Yeah, it's funny because like we met and like I told you like right up front, like I was like I'm a huge fan and I feel like you kind of got to take it back a little bit because I was like for me, like I'll tell you, like my journey was like ridiculous, right? Like I got out of high school, I went to college, I was following the path like everybody else was laying out in front of me. They're like, go to college, join the wrestling team, and I was a college wrestler, and then like I failed
Nice,
out,
nice.
and then I went into the military, and then because everybody's like, go to the military since you don't really know what to do with your life, and I got out of the
Yeah.
military, and everybody's like, go to college because you don't know what to do with your life, and I was like, I'll go to college, and then I graduated, and I was like, what am I gonna do? They're like, find a job. I was like, I'm gonna go wrestle. That's what I want to do. So here I am at like 35 years old, and I was like, I'm gonna hit this ring. I'm gonna hit these ropes. I'm gonna learn this business. I was like, I'm gonna do everything I can. I was like, because you're right. It's funny because like when you're such a young age, people all grew out. Like when I'm a '90s kid, right? And like everybody after like DX and the NWO kind of like fell apart. Like everybody was just leaving wrestling, but I was like, no, but there's still more stuff going on. They're like, we don't care, and I was like, that's it. It to me, it blew my mind because like I have three big things that I love in this life, right? And outside my family and my daughter and my wife, obviously, like right, like those you
Mm,
always gonna love those things. But
yeah.
things that I fell in love with were the Broncos, wrestling, and Dragon Ball. And like I still watch those things now, like, and
Nice,
I'm a
nice.
huge nerd for it, and like I think about it, and you're right. Like there's when I look at the world, I was like, there was never a place for me like that. And but wrestling, there's always a place for you like that. Like they, it's something you're either like really, really athletic, really, really weird, or really, really, really dark. But
Yeah.
you're somewhere in that category, and like,
Yeah.
and it's always it to me. It always blew my mind, and I'm like, this is like the greatest thing of all. And I was like, wrestling is so much fun because when you saw someone like the New Day come along and openly admit that like we play Pokemon Go, we're a level 21 Team Valor for life, and I was like, me too. So I think about like all the crazy things that like inside of like the wrestling world that the wrestling world in itself is like a bunch of kids who just refuse to grow up and still get to do all the stuff that they love doing. And I just this is a business that I was like, I'm gonna be in this business. I'm gonna have so much fun in this business. And it's gonna hurt because let's be real, like taking bumps suck. And I was like, but in this world, it's a lot of fun. And I openly wish the only thing I wish I would have started earlier, but I'm really glad I just got started, period.
Yeah, no, and I think like there's so many stories of like so many wrestlers who started late and finding so much success. And I also just think like you're just doing it. It's like just the most important thing. It's not about how you the journey is the journey to getting there. It's just like at least you started. Like it's not about how you got on the journey or how you got on the path. Like you started the journey. Not everybody can say that they chased their dream at any point in their life. Some people work a 9 to 5 and maybe they live a decent life and they make a living and they have a family and they live like everybody else, and that's okay. But like then they have their life with regrets and they're like, dang, I really should have chased that dream, or I should have really put more into what I really wanted to do because I just did what everybody else told me what to do. And like I realized like I'm just never gonna be that person. Like even in wrestling, I've never been good at like just following what everybody else is doing. I've kind of always kind of had to do my own thing and just roll with my gut. And
Right.
it's like a healthy level of like self-awareness too, because it's like I'm not always right, obviously. Like I don't think anybody is. It's just like if I have a gut feeling that things have to go a certain way, then you got to follow that. Like even like in terms of like the companies I work for or how I go about my career or the people I keep around me, everything is just like it's just my gut. And it usually works out. Like there was a point where like I wasn't getting any opportunities and I was doing all the right things, the quote unquote right things in wrestling. And I was going to the shows, I was showing face, I was sending out my tapes everywhere. And it just wasn't working, and I had to take a bet on myself. I say this a lot, and I attribute a lot of my success to it, and it's a shout out to Evolve, obviously. But if I hadn't done the Evolve trial in September of 2019, I don't know where my career would be right now, because it's kind of like I was getting booked, obviously, consistently at my home promotion, House of Glory, but I really didn't have anything else going on. I was sort of getting used at CZW because I was showing up to Dojo Wars and I was being humble there, but they really only used me as like an enhancement guy, so it wasn't really much. And um, with Evolve, I was able to springboard my career partly because like they really took a knack to me and a liking to me, and it inspired me and gave me so much confidence. Like I'm a huge fan of Johnny Gargano, like, and I so much of my work almost emulates him to a degree. And for him to tell me that like he thinks that what I'm doing is something really cool and that he believes in me and he will always have my back is like really, really cool and really inspiring. And like to me, it's like, dang, like I wake up in the morning and I think I'm all right. But if that guy thinks I'm cool, like I might as well, I gotta think I'm cool at least, It's just like I don't know. It's just like that's the stuff in wrestling like you look for. You're just kind of like, yeah, I should be a little bit more confident in myself. Yeah, I should trust in myself a little bit more. Like, obviously, like I'm not always going to be right, but I just got to go with my gut, And if I feel like this is the right move or the right time to do something, this is it. Like, the big like right now I'm doing this little thing of like big drip, and I'm on this gamer wave kind of thing and this aesthetic kind of thing, and I'm having a lot of fun doing that because in a way it is me, and it's still me. It's still the video games. It's still who I am. It's just now gaming is a little different, without wearing pocket protectors, and well, I'm wearing glasses right now, so I guess it doesn't count, but we're not wearing, like, it's not the stereotypical Steve Urkel thing that we think it is. When you're a gamer today, you're probably the coolest cat in town because that means you're a Twitch streamer, that means that you're an influencer, that means you have all the followers, that means that you have this aesthetic of a gamer wave, a vapor wave. Like there's so much to it now, and I think that it's so cool that now I can tap into that a little bit. I'm still a geeky Nintendo fan for life, but if I can give this cool aesthetic of like, oh yeah, I'm a gamer, but I'm also wearing I got this lo-fi aesthetic. I got my little bucket hat. I got my nice little sunglasses or something, like, there's something fun to there, And I think that most people can get that, and most people can kind of ride with that because they're like, oh yeah, he's a nerd, but that guy's a cool cat too.
Yo, it's funny. It's funny you bring that up too. Like just like when you think of nerds, right? You think of like Steve Urkel or you think of like Screech Powers, right? You think of like those cats like from like the 90s, and you're like, dude. But we it's weird to say like we've evolved, but we've just embraced like the culture so much more. And it was funny because like even my daughter the other day, like she was talking to me, and mind you, for you guys who don't know, we're actually recording this on May 10th, just to kind of throw that out there. But she said this to me the other day. She was like, "Dad, what's it like being successful?" And I was like, "What are you talking about?" I was like, "I'm so far from that." And she was just like, "No, no, no, no." She's like, "You have like this fun thing that you do, like the podcast, and then you do your wrestling thing, and then you still have like you like to play video games, and you like to do this and that." And I was like, "Well, yeah, I guess you're kind of right. Like you're right, and this is kind of like." Right. I was like, it feels good. It feels great. It feels great, babe. So at that point, like I
As
had to,
it should, as it
yeah,
should.
I was like, all of a sudden, I was like, oh, yeah, that's how that feels. Like, yeah, you're right. You're right. 100% you're right. So it was kind of funny to hear like all that and then talk about it. And then like, and then going out and get to meet people who kind of like understand, like, yeah, like you're getting on like this little wave, but then like you feel the wave out, like, you feel the wave like you're surfing, right? You feel it and you feel like it's starting to build, and you're like, yeah, you know what? Like things are turning and I can feel it. So I was like, I'm just gonna get ready to ride this down. But yeah, I was thinking about that when you said with Johnny, like Johnny Gargano thinks that you're cool, and that man lives and dies this business, and it takes probably the worst kind of bumps I've ever seen in my life. But with that being said, I gotta know for you, man, what's the worst bump you've taken?
That's an easy one. Well, unfortunately, an easy one. WrestleMania weekend in New York, 2019. I wrestled at Culture Clash 19, and Smiley, one of my rivals slash friends, who slash one of my trainers, technically, powerbombed me from the ring. So at House of Glory, we had this wooden ramp that we walked down, very New Japan, like really cool. What's not so cool is when you get running powerbombed from the ring onto that wooden ramp. There's no give, there's no anything. It hurts more than you can imagine bumping on the floor would feel. Because at least the floor, there's like this sense of like, I don't know, like because it's like longer, there's a sense of like, okay, the force there's a little something to it or whatever. I landed on that ramp and there was no give. I felt my body and I felt the air and the spirit leave my body for a moment. And I hit there and I bounced. The human body shouldn't bounce off of wood. And I bounced and then I fell off the ramp. And I remember my favorite thing was Nick Shin. I don't know. I gotta plug him. It was a casket match, so he's one of the refs. He comes over and checks on me. Very standard, very good ref thing. He comes over, he checks on me. He's like, "You okay, man?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And he goes, "Man, that looked like it hurt." And I'm pretty good at not swearing, and I curse so loud. Like, what the hell? Like, of course it hurt. Like, there's no part of it that wasn't gonna not hurt. And that it messed me up for a good week. I like to think I have a pretty high pain threshold, but the fact that I was able to finish that match, the fact that I was able to go through what I was able to go through to get back into the ring just like about a week or two later was pretty incredible. And yeah, like anytime people, it's funny because like I did a death match recently for the first time, and a lot of people were surprised by that, and I was kind of just like, I've kind of taken a lot of stupid bumps and kind of gone through a good amount of hardcore stuff too. I'm not really afraid of these moments, and I will say that if CZW ever comes back, one of my big goals is a Tournament of Death. One of my big goals is to like jump into that kind of hardcore, ultra violent type of deathmatch area. And not for the sake of just getting attention to myself, but like I genuinely want to kind of take a dabble in that art form, because I look at wrestling as an art form, and I look at the different kinds of matches and the different styles as the mediums. Like an art, you can paint, you can sculpt, you can draw freehand, you can draw with watercolor or paint or whatever. You can you can ink and ink blot, or you can use you can use just paper, or you can just splatter stuff. There's abstract art. And I look at the same thing with deathmatch wrestling. I think deathmatch wrestling can have this like really profound type of storytelling, this profound way to get this visceral knee-jerk reaction out of people. And then if you really know what you're doing in there, you can really like provoke some real strong emotions, because you can manipulate that and you can twist that in such a way, and my mouth waters thinking about stuff like that, because I'm just like, dang, like that'd be really cool. Like I was joking about it. We were talking about Invictus. I was joking about it. I was like, dang, I really hope Kennedy Copeland wins, because she's doing all the death matches, all the hardcore matches. And selfishly, I want to do a hardcore street fight with this girl for the Invictus title. Maybe fingers crossed. Maybe maybe we could still make it happen after I'm done with Big Calix. But oh my God, Kennedy Copeland, like that's just both. She's an awesome person and an awesome wrestler. And I want some type of excuse to do another death match, especially with a person of that caliber. Like she's so good.
Oh yeah, no doubt. And you're right. Like absolutely a sweet person. Like we had her on the show and we talked with her, and she laughed when I kept referring to her as like the baddest woman on the planet, because I was like, yo, like I've watched your stuff. I know what you do. Like,
yeah, no, it impresses
it's not like
me.
just walk in the park.
Yo, the skewers, the everything. Like she doesn't play. I'm kind of just like, whoa, like I like that. And it's just really, really cool. Like it happened so organically. Like she was just like, yeah, this is what I do now. Like I'm just, it's not even like she's a death match. Like she's just like, this is what I do. This is how I am. I'm a performer. I'm a wrestler. Like I do this on all levels, and I think that's the phase of my career that I'm at right now too, is like trying to prove I can do this on all levels. I get excited with the opportunity and the prospect of like, hey, I could do this in any way. I love switch wrestling with a switch in my hand. It makes me so happy. I feel so fulfilled. I love the reaction that I get from it, and I feed off of it. And I sometimes surprise myself with the stuff I'm able to pull off with my switch in my hands and while I'm playing. But being able to show a new level to myself, being able to show a new side of myself sometimes, that's also really exciting too, and like being able to show somebody something a little different. Like when I did my death match, I think people were surprised by it. and they see me pull out a GameCube and curb stomp Casanova Valentine on a GameCube, or maybe next time I'll pull out some tacks out of the GameCube or something. Like I get so excited for stuff like that. Like it's just the deathmatch scene can use a little bit of some gaming. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't know. Maybe I'll hit somebody with an Xbox and give them the Red Rings of Death or something.
Yeah, I like that. Or you take like a bunch of controllers and bust them open, just take the buttons out and just powerbomb people on the buttons.
Oh my gosh, I love it. I love it. That sounds so painful, but I love it.
Or you take a button, right, and you just like push it on the middle of their forehead and you just start pounding it like you're pounding.
Oh, like a skewer almost. Yeah, I like that. I always wanted to do. I saw. I forgot what tournament of death it was, but I saw like a CZW match years ago when I was a teenager. The exploding TV gimmick, like you hit someone, the TV explodes. I want to do the exploding game console, man. I'm just gonna hit you if it blows up in your face.
Oh, that would be wild. I wouldn't know what to do. I would not know what to do. Or like you like just there's like so many, like the more you say it, the more I'm like, yeah, I want to play with that idea too. Like I really would do. I would do like a console death match. I think I would definitely for that. Like that would be a lot of fun.
See, my idea is I gotta find this like arcade lot, like an old abandoned arcade lot, and I just start throwing people through it. It's like a SmackDown versus Raw, one of those locker room brawls, except it's through the arcade, and I'm just using all of the arcades for it. Oh, that'd be great. I gotta find the right budget for that though, because arcade machines ain't cheap.
Or you just take someone's face and you like bang it off like the pinball machine, and just have the pinball machine pop up and say like tilt like right across it.
Yes. I just start. Yep, it starts popping them in the face or something.
Yes. Oh, multi-ball. Speaking of hitting people with things, what's the hardest that you've been hit?
Well, light tubes hurt. I'm not gonna lie, and they get stuck in my hair really bad. And I found I literally found light tube glass all over my clothes and body for like the next 3 days straight. I think I had a friend who literally is like, "Hey, wait a minute, what's this in your hair?" And literally, she plucked out a piece of glass 3 days later.
Oh,
and I had washed and showered my body. Like I showered like at least twice after that. And I was kind of like, "Wow, that's nuts." I will say that hurt a lot, but like I would say that nothing has beat a kendo stick. Like kendo sticks hurt so much, and I think it's because like you get hit with metal or whatever, it hits the flesh, the pain lingers, and that's kind of it. The kendo stick, it like stings the flesh because of the wood and the way the wood is set up, and it hits you and it like almost burns your flesh with the way it stings you, and it lingers in such a weird way. Like I get sore after getting hit with a steel chair, and that it sucks, but I get hit with a kendo stick and it stings, and even like touching that spot again just hurts and stings, and it's just not a fun experience. I've gotten hit with a kendo stick a pretty good amount of times, and it just still sucks. It just still sucks.
Oh, it reminds me of because I know I got my first one in the back, and the wood split and then it pinched as it came back up, and I was like, yeah, I'm not feeling this. I was like, I hate this. I'd do it again, but I hate it.
Yeah, I always say to myself, I'm like, yeah, never again with the kendo stick. And then I do it again. And I'm just like, why? Like, what's wrong with me?
Yeah, that's the thing I hear about all the time. And then I find myself in the same pattern there. People are like, dude, I'll never do that again. But like in wrestling, like we have a screw loose and we're like, no. We'll never do it again till the next week. And then we'll do it again.
Yeah, I'm like, brother, I'm never doing a death match again. You're going to have to pay me top dollar for that. Then they're like, yeah, we got you this match. You're like, where do I sign? Where do I sign?
How do I get that?
Can we do it next week? Like I'm looking forward to my match with Big Calix, because I'm kind of just like, it's probably the biggest guy I've been in the ring with ever, because he's literally the biggest pro wrestler ever, apparently. So I am looking forward to getting destroyed. And I had a moment where I was like, wow, this match is probably gonna hurt a lot. Like he's gonna just toss me from point A to point B. I wouldn't be surprised if he just tossed me into the crowd somehow. They're socially distanced. He still gets me over there. And I'm like, I'm looking forward to that, Like I'm looking forward to that.
What's like so the first person I was ever in the ring with, the first match like I ever did, right, was with Big Trouble Ben Bishop. Like he was my debut
Ah,
match.
nice, nice, nice.
And then like we had like a really fun match and like getting dropped from 7 foot sucks. But then my most recent match was with Beastman. And I was like, what is wrong with me? I'm like open to doing this.
All these big guys, you just gotta.
But I love it. I'm like, yo, like this is fun. Like let me get Wrecking Ball Gursky next. Like that's what I'm gonna do.
Oh, oh man, that guy, he is strong as hell. Oof. I teamed with him at Evolve, and still somehow I still got beat up by him. That makes sense, right?
Like,
It was great. It was great. It was great.
oh
I guess he
man.
wasn't a fan of Nintendo or something.
Yeah, he's a PlayStation guy. Um, so I'm curious though, man. Like I know a lot of wrestlers who like to eat. Like some do eat before like their match. A lot of them don't, and then they always have like that post match snack or meal. So what's your post match snack or meal?
So I guess snack wise, I'll usually stock up on a lot of candy, like because I just need sugar, like pure, unaltered, just pure sugar. So usually like an airhead, like a pure airhead, it would hit the spot. Anything gummy, like a Lifesavers gummy or sour power straws, anything sour or really sweet or tart really hits the spot for me. In terms of like a good meal, like I know everybody has the Wawa versus Sheets debate. I'm definitely a little bit more of a Sheets guy these days. I grew up on Wawa and wrestling, like I really did. I was faithful to Wawa. I I was loyal to her, and then Sheets entered my life this past year because I guess because I was going to Philly way more and the PA way more, and I don't feel any type of regret, no regret whatsoever. Like I think Wawa has the better hoagies. Like I'll give them that, but Sheets just has so many options. The burgers, the sides, the mac and cheese. The mac and cheese bites are so freaking good. Oh my gosh, so those mac and cheese bites, onion rings. There's this really good. I forgot what the burger was. It was like a bacon burger on a pretzel bun. Oh my gosh, that's so good.
Then you just added mozzarella sticks on top. I know what you're talking about.
Oh,
Like,
oh
yeah,
yeah. So that's like my meal. And then of course, like, because at this point I'm just splurging, and then a Sheets soda, cotton candy flavor.
Oh, okay. You know what? Now next time I go and I buy sheets, like that's definitely what I'm gonna do. I never even like dabbed in it because like I've been there like twice now, and so
Mm.
both times I was just like, yeah, whatever, I'm gonna take this. But then like I saw the burger plan, I was like, yo, let me get that. Let me throw these mozzarella sticks on top too. So I was like, I
Hmm.
definitely understand where you're coming from with
Oh,
that.
it just hits so good. And then like, usually like when I wrestle, I don't like intentionally fast. What I'll like do is like I like some wrestlers like don't eat, and I'm like, I can't do that. I need like energy, and like, I have a pretty decent metabolism, so like I can eat. It's just like I don't like that bloated feeling. So I'm like usually careful. I'm usually counting calories pretty decently that day. So like I usually try to wake up early and get like a good early meal in so that it's digested by the time the show time. So like I'll maybe have like a somewhat big breakfast or have a big protein shake. And then by the time we get to the show, depending on if it's afternoon time or if it's a little bit later, then I'm usually pretty good. And then like that first real meal after I wrestle, it just hits so good. So good.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely can I can definitely relate to that. I'm curious, man, like you said, like you've been in the business now like for a few years, but you weren't really too comfortable in the first couple of years that you were in. I'm just curious though, like what kind of advice would you want to give to like up and coming wrestlers?
Oh man. I'm still an up and coming wrestler, damn it. Nah, I'm kidding. It's just it is weird when I get asked that stuff because sometimes I still feel like I'm still trying to learn so much of like for myself. But I will say, I think it's always hard because I think the first few years it's always just like learning, like listening to everybody and trying to get all this knowledge. And I will say that it's very important to collect all this knowledge. I think you should be an encyclopedia of knowledge your first 2, 3 years. Like there's so many avenues too, like so many podcasts, JR's podcast, even the guy who hates me, Jim Cornette, a little bit. I think there's so much knowledge, good knowledge, that comes in terms of the basics, in terms of psychology, in terms of the way you should attack it. So many wrestlers have their own podcasts. Even Corey Graves' podcast is like, I listen to it because I love hearing the thoughts of a Bailey or a Roman Reigns or Sasha Banks, even if it's just like 20 minutes, hearing the top people of our industry talking about what motivates them and what keeps them on their toes, what inspires their progression and their tweaks and changes to their character. I would say those first few years are about progress and knowledge and how you apply it to yourself. After that, I think it's just a matter of hopping on the cars and going on the road. I think that, I just lamented that it didn't really work so well for me, but you still have to do it, and like, I at this point in my career, I still have to do it. And I think that, like, there's so many opportunities you get just by showing face. You can easily go, well, I'll just send that page the message and I guess I'll wait for that. Like, it's not like you show way more just by being there. You show way more by helping out, by asking questions and by trying to learn, and I think a lot of times, like, it takes a lot of humility to go to a show knowing it damn well there's no way you're going to get on, no way you're going to get booked, probably no way you're going to get booked anytime soon. But you go there, you ask questions, you ask the top guys, what did they do? How they broke into this company, who to talk to, how did they get their opportunity, and kind of figure out for yourself, how do I make myself an asset for this company? How would I fit onto the card? Like, realistically, I think a lot of times in wrestling, sometimes the issues a lot of guys have is they're a little delusional. And that's okay, because we all have to have a level of confidence, like, but we all can't be world champion at the same time. We have to, like, think about, okay, if my role is to be the opening match on the card, how do I fill that role and make it the best I can and the best of my ability? How do I, as my character, how do I position myself to either make this crowd hate me or to make them love me or to make them feel bad for me? How do I make them laugh and get behind me in that way? Like, what am I trying to do here? And how do I accomplish that at the highest level possible? I think it starts to get a little bit more specific once you start getting a little bit older in wrestling, but that's why you get all that knowledge so that you can, like, really apply that stuff in the future. When I was younger in wrestling, I watched all the WWE documentaries. I listened to all the podcasts. I watched all the New Japan matches, and I tried my best to try to pay attention to these little different things because I really wanted to learn, and I love wrestling. So it was easy to do in a lot of ways because I eat that for breakfast, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So I was like, yeah, sure, more wrestling. I got to study this by all means, yeah. And I think it really goes a long way, And I think that it's really cool too when you just remember it's a journey. I just say to up and coming, I guess it's my main point of all of this. Just enjoy the journey, like the journey when you're first 2 years in, when you're just learning, to the next few years when you're on the road. And then the next few years when you start getting that opportunity to showcase what you can do and fulfill your role and play your part. We can't all be the top guy in the company, at least not at the same time, but we can all fill a role in a show, fulfill that role, and make it a really dope show. Like Invictus, that show was really, really awesome. I got to watch a good majority of the matches, and I was so happy because I was like, top to bottom, this card kind of did everything it was supposed to do. And, like, I think everybody really filled their roles really well. The women's match was awesome. The ladder match was a ladder match. It was really fun. Obviously, me and Killian did a little something different. He'd try to break a Wii and try to get in my head, and I had to beat him up. It was I smacked Big Dust with a Sonic popsicle. Then you got Ken Broadway and TJ in the main event. Hard hitting as it gets and trying to knock each other's teeth out. It's all different, but then it all comes together because it's like a well-rounded. I like to think of wrestling at its purest form as like a MCU movie. You're gonna laugh, you're gonna cry, you're gonna get your action, you're gonna get your drama, you're gonna get a little bit of comedy, some jokes, some funness, and you're gonna get larger than life characters. And when it's a really good show, it's like Infinity War, man. Like, you get everything you want and then some. And you get the teaser for a little bit more,
I was like, as long as it doesn't leave you like Infinity War left you.
Right. That was I was giving you the example because, like, you get that cliffhanger at the end of like, okay, right. Like, I mean, I guess I hope that I don't get, like, snapped out of existence at the end of a show.
I always, because like, you're 100% right. Like, a good wrestling show should make you feel like you just, like, you went through, like, this epic adventure. especially as a fan or even just as a wrestler yourself. Like, you should feel like you went through this epic adventure. I was just thinking in the sense of like Infinity War. Like, I have never told this story like on the air before. I've told the story like plenty of times, a lot of people. But after I got to watching Infinity War, I sat in my car for 20 minutes trying to figure out what I just watched. I was so like emotionally, I was just done. I was like, I just was like, what happened? Like, what happened? Like, I just kept thinking to myself like over and over again. And that's all I kept saying. Like, I drove home, I sat in a park in my parking stall. I was like, what did I just watch? Like trying to replay all the things I saw, and I was just like, I'm emotional. I'm just broken. You know?
It's crazy because like how often do you get that from a movie? Like we've seen the bad guy win. We
Right.
have in movies and we you know Empire Strikes Back and so many other movies. We've gotten that, but like for him to win in such a way and you kill half the universe or something like that, it's just like kind of nuts. And I think that there's something really, really powerful about that that just hits you in a way you can't describe. Like, you know, we always, you know, a lot of us in our generation complain about like, oh, I didn't get to live through this or I didn't get to experience that. I get to tell my kids I got to live through Infinity War and that year-long wait of figuring out what the hell is going to happen. How do the Avengers beat Thanos after this or whatever?
Yeah, you know, I was like, the more I think about it, and even like now, I'm just getting tongue tied just thinking about like how I felt. I just remember like just being down, like even like days after, I was like, bro, like what happened?
Oh, and that's the thing is like that's like to tie it even back to wrestling. It's like when you're suspended in such a disbelief, like I know Josh Brolin isn't really Thanos, and I know he really didn't really kill Gamora and Tom Holland, all this stuff like that. But yo, like it's crazy. I hated Thanos. I was like, what the hell? Like you just killed everybody. What the hell? What you mean half the universe is gonna get to prosper now? What you mean? Why did you just create more resources, asshole? Like it was crazy. Like it was nuts, you know, and like you were suspended in this disbelief, you know, and it really, really stuck with you. And I think wrestling has the ability at its best to do that with you, you know. Yeah, we know what we know about wrestling and this, and that, and it's perform, but like it can really suck you in and really make you feel something, you know. Um, like
I was just thinking about the moment that with the Shield, right, where Triple H has the sledgehammer, and he's like, "There's always a plan B," and here comes Seth Rollins from behind, and I remember I had the same feeling where I was like, "I'm invested in the Shield. I've been invested in the Shield now for like a few years. Like, I love
mhm.
these guys. These are awesome, and they've won me over." And in the moment Seth turned, I was like, "I hate this dude. I
It's
want him
so funny.
erased."
It's so funny because I've made the argument that that is probably the greatest I would say modern day, just to give the respect to all the previous heel turns, but I think that's probably the greatest modern day of this millennia. I think heel turn, because you there's a moment where like so you don't see it coming because you're just like to me a heel turn you need to not see coming, and then the execution of it has to like it has to hit you in such a way off of it, you know, not just the execution, like, hey, did you hit the chair smoothly on them or whatever? Or did they not, like, the Shield just won? They have all the control. There's no reason for them to break up. It's like, why? Why would they break up? You know, even backstage, the Shield themselves are like, hey, why are we breaking up? This feels a little early or something. And my favorite moment of it was like always the plan B. You know, Triple H gets the sledgehammer, Seth goes to grab the chair. You get this feeling like, yeah, they're getting ready for war. I legitimately was thinking to myself, oh man, some old wrestler or some NXT guy is gonna pop up, be that third member, and try to mess up the Shield, and that's gonna be the new age evolution going forward. You know, because I knew Batista had to go be Drax or whatever. You know,
Right.
but like, and then you see Seth, the steel chair changes, and you hear like this one go back and watch it because you're gonna hear this in the same you hear this one fan scream no, then everybody else realizes what's about to happen, and then he swings the chair
Yeah.
and it just hits him. And Roman, he doesn't get enough props for the seller he is, but he just takes it so perfectly. He gets hit with it, he crumples slowly, he hangs in the ropes. Dean is shocked. He doesn't immediately run at Seth. He walks at Seth like, what? Why? What did you do? And then Seth just goes to town on Dean, and it's just like I don't know if there's like anything better in this modern day, like that hits better. There's a lot of like turns that are just like, oh my God, and I think Champa to Gargano was good. It was one that hit pretty tough. It's funny because like you kind of always knew it was gonna happen, and it's crazy to me because I was a fan of both of them before they got signed, so like I was kind of familiar with them, and obviously they were a makeshift tag team, going to NXT. Kind of was like, oh, that's weird. They got signed as a tag team, and they're kind of just a tag team now. But then they made it work, and you're like, DIY, yeah, they're awesome. Match of the years with the revival, yeah. And then the Cruiserweight Classic happens. You're kind of like, oh, Ciampa's gonna turn on him. This is it, the Psycho Killer, and then it doesn't happen. You're like, oh, okay, I guess maybe not. And then they have their moment in Chicago, and then chucks him at the Titantron. You're like, oh, there it is. Yep. So like you kind of almost felt like it was coming, and that's like I don't know. Like I think wrestling, I think you can't just swerve fans. Like it can't just be that. It can't just be yeah, you didn't see this coming, and it's like, well, I didn't see that coming because it was kind of ridiculous. But all right,
Well, it's like the heat that, and see, like, okay, so it's funny how you mentioned Seth having like one of like the greatest heel turns of, like the modern day, because I think Champa had like one of the greatest like heat moments of not even just like the modern day. I mean just in general. Like a man came out with no music and just that I was watching it, and the heat that I was feeling was just on another level of
No,
nuclear. I was like,
no, it was great, and also like there's a lot of debate about like wrestling. I guess we're just exposing everything in this podcast, but there's a lot of debate about like heels and how to be a heel in this era, like if it's even possible, because all the great heels pander on social media. They want you to buy their merch. They want you to subscribe to their channel. They want you to do this and that. And then you got the 60-year-olds who'll be like, back in my day, they threw tomatoes at us from the crowd and they hated me. They tried to shoot me with a gun. They hated my guts. And valid. That is real heat. If someone wants to shoot you with a gun, you got heat, brother. Like you just got it. But we live in a different time. We live in a different climate. There's different challenges. I think that most of those wrestlers back then, they wouldn't know how to navigate a social media. They'd probably be super nice to all their fans on social media. Maybe, who knows? You can't just say whatever the hell you want to say on social media. There's a level of nuance and sophistication you still have to have.
right.
Now we blur the lines. Like there was a thing with a few days ago, MGF. He's probably the best heel right now, I guess, because he blurs the lines in a lot of ways where you kind of think, oh, that guy's probably legitimately a jerk. He posts fan art and he calls it mark art, and he doesn't credit the artist or whatever. And, people would be like, hey, credit the artist. And he's like, no, I don't want to. And, is that him getting heat or is that him just being a jerk? And, to him, he probably doesn't he probably doesn't care. And like some people will argue like, oh no, that's not even good heat. That's this and that. But then it's like, what is good heat? Is it the heat that makes you comfortable? Is it the heat that makes you uncomfortable? How much of this, it gets into this nuance of the art form of like, is wrestling at its best when it's making you feel stuff you weren't prepared to feel.
Right.
Because a lot of people, they want to enjoy art, and wrestling. Also, there's like wrestling. There could be some people who just want to watch comedy wrestling, who just want to watch a good wrestling match, a good contest for 20 minutes, and that's the beautiful thing about this era is like there's so much options. If you don't like that kind of heat, you don't have to watch MJF. You don't have to watch AEW. You could watch NXT, which has a little bit more of a performance focus on wrestling. You want even more of a focus on wrestling. ROH to me is like back. They're doing pure rules with the rope breaks, and you only get to hold the rope 3 times. Like pure wrestling, literally pure wrestling. And it's like there's the stories that they can tell with that. It's like it's so awesome. Like you have all these options, and like if you don't want to go on that roller coaster of emotion that you can't even control or predict, you could just also watch really good wrestling. You could also just watch the independents. There's so many options, and I know that's a cliche because everybody said that for the past 10 years, but it's like it's so truer. It's so truer. Like it's just like I think 10 years ago when I was watching the independents and stuff, when I was first kind of breaking into wrestling and independent wrestling, because I got into it a little later, it was Daniel Bryan and CM Punk. Them getting signed made me go, hey, where do these guys come from? And back then, I just thought it was, WWE, Impact, and back in TNA, and ROH. And then later, I started to pick up on CZW and Chikara, PWG, New Japan. And I was like, oh, this is really, really cool. And then I didn't even really know that the independents were so vast, that there was indie companies in every town, in every city, in every state, everywhere. And it's just so cool. Like, and I just like, whenever people are like, wrestling sucks and wrestling's not the same, I'm like, there's so many options, like there's something for everybody. You want to watch death matches, there's ICW, there's GCW, there's so many options. You want to watch intergender wrestling, and you want to watch LGBTQ, and you want to watch representation, there's Uncanny Attractions, there's Paris is Bumping, to an extent Camp Leapfrog. There's all these companies that have all of this, and it's really cool. And it makes me so happy because I'm like, damn, this is a really good time to be a wrestler. This is a really good time to be in the industry because there's everything for every niche. There's a platform for everybody. There's an ability to fill a role and to be a part in every way. And I guess I'm a little crazy because I'm like, I want to be a part of every single facet. I want to do everything. Because there's so many options. I kind of want to wrestle everywhere. I kind of want to wrestle everyone. I kind of want to wrestle every style. Don't be surprised if 6 months from now you see me doing catch wrestling with Gresham or something. I don't know.
It's funny because big shout outs. Yeah, first of all, I just want to say big shout outs to Ring of Honor because I watched Jonathan Gresham versus Jay Lethal, and I was in love with that match. In fact, on our power rankings, because we have the 3 Count Podcast power rankings, it was number 1. We made it number 1 on the list. It was such an awesome match, such a great storytelling too. And I was like,
no, yeah, Gresham's on another level. And I remember seeing him like when I first broke in, like I was like a young boy in the locker room, and he came in, with a decent name, like he was, he'd wrestled for a good amount of years, and I was like, oh wow, this guy is really good. He might be up there with Saber, and like I feel silly thinking like yeah, he's up there. He might be up there with Saber. Now it's like no, I think it's like when you think of the top technical wrestlers, you either say Gresham or Saber, and honestly, I lean a little bit. I think Gresham's been on such a tear, man. Like. I'm kind of just like, yeah, I take Gresham right now, Yeah. No disrespect to Saber.
Well, and it's something to be said that when you're holding the pure wrestling title and you won it 8 times, or you've defended 8 times and won 8 different ways. Yeah, I think you definitely win that role. Like, I get it, right? I get it. New Japan fans, I get it. Okay, like the cup is everything, right? But that title means a lot too.
Yeah, yes, it does.
All right, so I do need to ask this question though, right? I need one do and one don't of the locker room.
I will say, so it is a cliche to shake everybody's hand and this and that. I don't always believe in that, but I believe in greeting everybody, especially in COVID time. I do think it's respectful to greet everybody, to say hello. I'm a fan of the help. Hey everybody, hey, what's up, Leroy? Da-da-da. And then you just keep it moving. You never know if people are busy or whatever. One of the don'ts, I like to tie it into this. Do not overextend for the greeting, for the hello, for the handshake, for the whatever. Because if someone's in the middle of calling their match, or someone's in the middle of doing something, or if someone's just kind of not in a great mood, you gotta read the room a little bit. I always think of this awkward exchange. Oh, great, I got a story. I guess I was backstage for AEW Dark. I was there with one of my friends. We had gotten on the show and stuff. We're walking backstage in the locker room. We see probably the biggest guy in the biggest star in the company, John Moxley. I kind of have this idea of John Moxley. I'm like, okay, he's kind of a loner type. I want to selfishly say hi, but we probably shouldn't press it. So I said, yo, what's up, John? And like he's kind of like sort of on the other side of the corridor, and he looks over, gives me the head nod and one of these. And I was like, I'm good. Yeah. Then my friend, who's kind of to the left to me, he starts kind of pushing us a little bit closer to Moxley. I'm like, no. And then he reaches over for the fist bump. Moxley's still kind of doing this, and he's kind of like, and he gives us the most begrudging little fist bump, like, because we forced him.
Yeah.
And he just has so much discontent, like, for us. And I'm just like, really? We really needed that fist bump, huh? You really
I
needed
had
it,
to
huh?
do it.
And he looked at my friend looked at me and he's like, yeah, that was pretty awkward, wasn't it? I was like, yeah, you think? So I would say don't press for the fist bump. You take the grading that you can get. If anything, maybe after that you can have the conversation when they're free, and that's even better. If you don't have a conversation with a wrestler, that you look up to, or a wrestler that you think is pretty cool, or whose work you admire, or who you're a fan of, I think that goes a long more way than just saying like, yeah, I got that fist bump or handshake, because then it's like, okay, yeah, you forced it out of them, and made it weird. Like, maybe be cool, be chill, and then you can have a conversation with them, and then that's even more meaningful because you're like, wow, I got to pick the brain of John Moxley, or hey, I got to pick the brain of so and so, or whatever.
Yeah, that was like the one thing for me too. Like even just like showing up to like a new locker room, like yeah, I want to meet everybody. I want to say hi. Like like before you had shown up, I came in. I said hi. Like I'm Cliff. Like I'm here and that I'm just come to help set up. That's all it is, right? And I met a few people. Some names I just can't remember. But then like I sat like in a group of guys and just didn't say anything. And Alex showed up and he was, hey guys, we're gonna set up all the tables here and over here, some chairs over there. Cliff, what are you doing here? And I was like, hi. Just just there. He was like, I didn't even see you. I was like, I know, I just like blended my surroundings. It's pretty cool. And then
Nice,
after
nice.
that, like everybody like walked up and they're like, hey, what's up? I'm blah blah. I'm like, hi. Like, I'm just here to help set up. That's all I'm here for. But
Yeah.
I was like, I'm not gonna try to like, I'm not like, I might see you, I might give you like a head nod, I might throw like a shock up like John, but I'm just like, I'm just not gonna get in your bubble. I've heard about like there was a story. It was I think it was Randy Orton was telling the story, and he was calling a match, and like some dude, it was an extra, just like walked up and in the middle of like I think it was Jeff and Randy were calling their match, and he just
Oof.
stood there. And he just waited because like that's the rule. Like, yeah, go shake everybody's hands. And he just stood there. And they were calling their match, and then they had stop, turn, they go and they shake this guy's hand, and then he leaves. But I was like, yo, like that man standing there for like 2 or 3 minutes listening to them call the match. I was like, come on, man. At some point,
It's
you gotta be like,
that's great because I literally just heard I like just read like a Randy Orton interview where he was like, yeah, I actually used to hate Matt Riddle because as a veteran, like Orton's a veteran now, and like he's just like, yeah, like NXT there was like a joint event or whatever, and Matt Riddle was there in the locker room, and he sees me and he doesn't say hi or anything, he's just kind of staring at me, and it kind of rubbed me the wrong way, and I'm just like, wow, it's really, I think it just depends on context because I've I think I've been there too. Like I'm not no, I think I can understand of like, okay, this guy hasn't said what's up to me. I wonder if something's up or I don't know. And it's a human. It's not a wrestling thing as much as a human thing. You just want to be greeted. It's a professional setting. We're all here to work. We're all here to do a job on some level, even if it is just to set up the ring, or even if it is to ring the bell, or even if you're a fan. Like sometimes you're just like, yeah, just say what's up. If you're here before the show, say what's up, whatever. Read the room. If I'm calling my match or if I'm trying to do something, maybe now's not the time for a conversation. Like if I'm trying to sell merch to fans and someone's trying to pick my brain on something, I'm kind of just like, hey, can I do what I got to do first, and we could talk later. Like I'm flattered, but like I kind of trying to make a few bucks or something.
yeah. I definitely, yeah. That's like the one thing I remember. I just going through and just sitting at and just like I love the fact that we're just talking about Invictus because it's just like simple. But like yeah, I just sat around and just chilled out. Like I wanted to go say hi to a bunch of people who I had interviewed on the podcast, but I wasn't gonna be like, oh hey, do you remember me from blah blah blah? Like no 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 no. I'm just gonna wait. Whenever they're chilling out, I'll just walk up, approach them, say hi, and then we'll go from there. And yeah, it made it easy. But I was like, I'm one of those guys, like, I just look at everything, I observe everything first, and then I'll be like, all right, I will talk to that person. So,
Nice. No,
and like
I'm the
you,
same way.
and I
No,
was
and
like,
that's what I was gonna say. That's what you did with me because I think I started selling merch early. Like I set up my table pretty quickly and stuff like that. I interacted with a few fans, and I think you came afterwards. And then you said, "Hey, I'm Cliff," da, da, da. And I was like, "Hey, what's up?" And they're like, "Yeah, I have this podcast. I'm just trying to get you on." And I was like, "Oh." And I was like, "I feel like I've met you before." And I was like, "Oh." And then I thought about it. I was like, "I feel like I've heard of your podcast too." I was like, "Okay." And you're like, "Yeah, I hit you up." And I was like, "Oh, I feel bad now." And I was like, "Yeah, sure, man. Like I could totally be on the podcast and voila, that's we've come full circle.
Right. Well, with that being said, man, those are like all like really like the hard hitting questions. But I do have our second best segment that's on the Three Count Podcast show. People ask, "What's the first?" And I tell them it's the Red Dogs Power Rankings that you can catch on our debate show every week, or you can check out the replay of it now because we just started doing this. You can check out the replay on Instagram or on TikTok. So you can check out what the podcast rankings for top matches of the week are. But this is the Three Count Podcast, 10 count questions. Mr. Leroy, I know you're a gamer. So
Yes, I am.
we set this up purposely for you. I'm going to have 10 questions. I'm going to fire them rapid fast at you. And then it's whatever first thought comes to mind.
All right, let's do this. Let's play.
Let's go. We put on the imaginary timer. Bing! And here we go. SmackDown or Raw?
SmackDown.
It's a Friday night. What are you doing?
Watching SmackDown usually.
Wii or Wii U?
Oh, Wii, easy. Wii U is a failure of a system. And I love Nintendo.
Favorite movie?
Endgame. I really liked Endgame.
Okay. Pokemon or Monster Hunter?
Pokemon. Sorry, Monster Hunter's good, but Pokemon, you can't touch Pokemon.
Favorite color?
Right now, I'm feeling kind of blue purple, like a nice little blue purple kind of color.
Okay. Sonic or Mario?
Mario. Although one of my friends got me in the Sonic fix where I'm kind of just diving back into Sonic, but it's still always Mario.
Favorite podcast?
Oh, the Three Count Podcast. You guys, right? I got to say that, right? If I say other podcasts, I'd be kind of it'd be kind of bad, right?
No. We definitely appreciate when people tell us that, but honestly, like we've had everybody else tells out of the podcast too, and I'm like, some of them I'll be like, oh, you know what? I'm gonna go check that one out too.
Well, if I'm gonna put over another podcast, I'll put over IndieCast. They gave me a really, really good interview. Those guys were really cool. And my favorite thing about it, which you're sort of kind of diving into with the gaming and stuff, which is really cool. Sorry, imaginary timer. With the gaming stuff, because they asked me more about gaming than they did about wrestling, which was it was a fun twist.
Bet. All right, I need you to nominate one person that you want to see on this podcast.
OMG, Abby Jane. I love Abby Jane. I think she should be honest. I think she'd do great. If not her, maybe Abs. I like Abs. I think he would be really good in a good interview setting, and his abs would probably be half the camera.
Yeah, Andrew's better body system, of course.
Yes.
I definitely gonna reach out to Abby Jane though, because I know that's definitely a name. It's not the first time that name's been brought up, so I'm definitely gonna have to reach out now.
Yes.
And this is our last question, and my favorite question to ask every single person that comes on this show: favorite curse word. And yes, you are.
That's a hard one. That's a hard one. Probably shit. I like shit. I do, I guess, because it just rolls off the tongue. It's quick. It could be very comedic, and it could be very like not aggressive. And I feel like most curse words are just so aggressive. Like F-bombs are just so tough. I think ass is really tame. Like I don't feel like ass is a curse anymore. I feel like ass is too tame. But I feel like shit is like shit. Or it could be like she. It could be really fun. Like I think there's so much more funny stuff, like you could do with the word. And it has like so many different connotations and meaning. Like I just said I like shit, and like it can mean that I just like stuff, or it could just mean that I like the stuff that goes in the toilet, who knows? Yeah. Maybe a little bit of both.
Maybe both at the same time. Who knows? So that's it for the 10 count questions. So the last thing I need from you, sir, is can I get where our viewers and our listeners can find you?
Well, I've made it easy for everybody. So you can follow the Invictus social media wrestling champion. I like that. Like that plug. At Twitter, at Big Game Leroy. On Instagram, at Big Game Leroy. You can add me on Facebook because Mark Zuckerberg would not let me get rid of the green. You can add me at Leroy Green. And you can subscribe to my YouTube channel, which would be also Big Game Leroy. And you can also support me by, hitting up my Pro Wrestling Tees, prowrestlingtees.com/buy Big Game Leroy. And also, if you hit up Fully Gimmicked, I am selling Big Game Leroy cartridges, which are fully playable. And what game? I have no idea because they're all randomized. We found them in some Blockbuster or something. But I promise you, if you plug it into an NES, you'll play something, and it'll be fun because it is me.
Bet. Whether you guys have it, so there's all his plugs, so you guys know where to find him. And that's it. This is the Three Count Podcast presents Now Entering Ring. And like I said at the top of the show, I am Clifford Red Dog Miller, but it's never about me. It's about who's now entering the ring. And you guys see him right there. He is the myth, the man, the legend, the greatest of Nintendo supporters of all time. Big game, Leroy. You guys know what to do. Tune into the next episode and be there, or you just wait till this episode ends, please, because after the outro, another episode is gonna play. Peace. What's going on, Three Count Nation? I'm Clifford Red Dog Miller with the catchphrase. But what I really want to do right now, go to twitter.com, right? Go over there, find us at the 3count_pod, give us a follow, give us a like, give us a comment. We want to talk to you guys. Go to IG at the 3count_pod. Give us a like, give us a follow, leave us a comment. We want to interact with you. Go to youtube.com, give subscribe, turn the bell on, turn the notifications, leave a comment. We want to talk to you. Go to anchor.fm/the 3count podcast, and in there, you can leave us a message, and we will talk to you. Basically, what I'm trying to tell you is that we want to talk to you. We want to have fun with you guys, and we love listening to what you guys have to say. Also, one thing I need you to do for me, the 3count podcast also has merchandise. At prowrestlingtees.com/the 3count pod. Please go buy our t-shirts. We love you guys, and we hope you love us too. So show us some support, please.